Hey guys, it's Luke Yan, and today is the start of my reading vlog for Watch Me by Tahereh Mafi. I've not done a dedicated reading vlog in about a year since I was last home for summer. I just got back literally 2 days ago, and this was the first thing that I knew I was going to read because it came out in like mid-April, and I was waiting to read it until I got home so that I could film a reading vlog for you guys, and I'm super excited to talk about this book. This is actually the second video that I'm making about Watch Me. I did a sort of reaction to the announcement in August, so you can check that out on my channel, but I was sort of just talking about my feelings on the idea of this book to begin with, and now obviously I'm going to be doing a spoiler-filled review reading vlog, updating my progress as I get through this new entry into the Shatter Me world. For a little bit of backstory, I love the Shatter Me series. It's one of my favorite series of all time, and Tahereh Mafi is probably my favorite author of all time. I have reread the Shatter Me series like 5 or 6 times. I reread it every single year, so I was super excited when I found out that she would be returning to the world with this spin-off which follows James, who was like a side character in the original series, and this new spin-off takes place 10 years later, after the end of the final book in the Shatter Me series, and it follows James and a new character named Rosabelle. So I am going to do just like a little spoiler-free synopsis, and then we're going to transition into some spoilers because I'm already about 100 pages into the book, so I do just want to talk about that. First, actually, I want to talk about the cover because I got the exclusive edition. So it has this like metallic foil, gold foil. The spine is really good, cool, and then the back as well is really nice. And then obviously it has the gilded holographic edges, and then there is the under the dust jacket with a quote from the book. So we will have to see throughout the course of this video if the inside matches the beautiful outside. So basically, as I said, this book follows James 10 years after the end of the Shatter Me series, and he decides that he is going to try to breach Ark Island, which is the last vestige of the reestablishment, and it is something that his brother Warner and Warner's wife Juliet, the original main characters from the Shatter Me series, were never able to do. They were never able to infiltrate Ark Island. James has been able to get in onto the island, but he ends up imprisoned, and there is an assassin on the island named Rosabelle who has been ordered to find James and kill him. And we sort of find out that Ark Island is where it is very advanced. There's a lot of technological peculiarities, I should say. Like, it is a very highly advanced security state and a surveillance state, oh my god, and we just have to kind of get to the bottom of all of that, and there's a little bit of a romance between James and Rosabelle. None of this is spoilers, this is all just like from the inner dust jacket. So that is going to be the end of the spoiler-free section of this video, so I'm going to move on to spoilers. I'm really only going to be talking about the first, like, 11 chapters, the first 100 pages, and talking about my thoughts on that, so I will say goodbye to all the spoiler-free people for now, but I would definitely recommend you read this book and then check back in after you have done so. Okay, so my thoughts on the first 100 pages of the book. So far, I think it's pretty good. Not a ton has happened yet. I've honestly seen some pretty negative reviews about this book, or for this book, even people who love the Shatter Me series, so I'm a little bit nervous and a little bit apprehensive, but I am still excited to continue reading. I really did not get that far into it, only 100 pages yesterday. Even though I am really excited to read it, I just felt very drained because yesterday was Sunday, and on Saturday I drove for like 8 hours to come back home after finishing the semester, so I was sort of just still recovering. But today I do plan on reading a big chunk of this book, if not finishing it, honestly, because I literally have nothing to do today except chill at home and read, so we'll see how far I get into the book. But so far we've sort of just gotten like the beginnings. We got an introduction to Rosabelle, who lives with her sister Clara. Both of her parents are dead. I think, well, her mom is definitely dead. I think her father is dead as well, and she works for the reestablishment as an assassin. And then we follow James as he, like, is in his prison cell. and he is like, he and Rosabelle meet, and there's this whole like fight and everything, and James escapes and heals himself, and he's now like in the forest, and Rosabelle and her sort of like higher ups are watching him through the surveillance that is just like littered throughout the island. And I really like the world building so far. That's probably the strongest aspect of this book right now, is just learning about Ark Island and how it operates, and seeing how the members of the reestablishment were able to prolong or like, you know, survive at the end of the series, and I think it just has done a great job of opening up the world. That was also probably my favorite part of the second half of the Shatter Me series, was just seeing beyond North America, going to Oceania, and just also having a lot of characters from different parts of the world, the children of the Supreme Commanders. So this is doing a similar thing where we are exploring Ark Island, and yeah, there hasn't been a lot of plot developments besides what I just said with like James escaping and everything, but I'm definitely interested in Rosabelle. She seems like an interesting character. I do love James's narration, his inner monologue. He reminds me a lot of Kenji, but he also definitely feels like his own character. So it'll be fun to sort of get to know both of these characters more, and I know that the original characters from the Shatter Me series are in this book, so either they end up on Ark Island as well, or James escapes and goes back to wherever they are. Are they back in like California area, or are they still in the sanctuary? I don't know. I guess we will find out. But super excited for that, and yeah, we're kind of just getting the introductions to everything, the world, the characters, how everything works. So I will definitely, right now, probably go read at least 100 more pages. That will bring me more than halfway through the book, because it's pretty short. It's only like 350 pages. And also it does the thing where all Tahereh Mafi books have done recently, where it's like a full page just to say like chapter whatever. So it's actually more like 300 pages. So yeah, it's definitely easy to fly through, and I think I've just sort of reached the part where it seems like James is gonna try to escape, and so I think things will become a lot more fast-paced right now. But yeah, the writing is good. I'm just intrigued to see whether or not I will have as negative of an opinion on this book as it seems like a lot of other people have had. I think since I have the benefit of like 2 weeks since the book came out, I've seen a lot of negative reviews. But anyway, I'm gonna stop talking because I've been talking for almost 10 minutes, so I am gonna go read, and I will talk to you once I have gone probably about 100 more pages into Watch Me. So it is about 11:30, and I just read about 100 more pages of Watch Me, so I'm on page like 210, I think, so I'm on chapter 24, and things are definitely interesting, but I think I have like a very specific complaint with the book, and that is that I feel like there are not enough transition scenes. Like, it's very strange. I feel like we often are jumping from like action scene to action scene, or like revelation to revelation, like between chapters, without a lot of like flow or like connective tissue. That's a weird way of putting it, but that's just the best way I can describe it. Okay, sorry. I think I had to like move the camera because the lighting was really weird. But yeah, I feel like there was... So essentially what has happened thus far is that James, like, was able to find a random, like, chopper helicopter thing. And again, it was like, that was like one of the moments where I was like, wow, there really should have been a transition scene or like a chapter of him finding it, because it's kind of just described afterwards, so there's a lot of telling and not showing in this book, which I don't really love. And I think that definitely started in the second half of the Shatter Me series. I think in Shatter Me, Unravel Me, and Ignite Me, it was less of that. And even in Restore Me, to a certain extent, there was less of that, and there were a lot more transition scenes, like, where you got to see between, like, the more exciting moments. I think Tahereh Mafi is really just, like, in this book in particular, jumping between, like, what are the most interesting things, and leaving out some of the stuff that adds more cohesion to the story as a whole. So basically he found the helicopter, and then he like saw Clara, who is Rosabelle's sister, get like detained, I think, and then he found Rosabelle. They ended up crash landing, and then she saved them with her like aircraft knowledge, and then they landed in the New Republic, and then it switches automatically. This is again where some transition could have helped. She like passes out, and then the next chapter we're just like with the original gang, like Kenji and Winston and Adam, and it's like there could have been 3 or 4 chapters. Like there could have been 50 pages of her passing out, James reacting, them landing, him getting her out, arriving. Like I feel like there's just a lot missing, and it's not like this book is really long, so it's not like a situation where she needed to cut things. Like it's not like Kingdom of Ash where it's 1,000 pages long. It's like 350 pages. We definitely could have had more chapters just filling in some of the blanks. But anyway, back to the plot. They arrive, like, and James has a whole conversation with some of the characters from the original series, and then Warner shows up and they have a conversation, and he goes to see Roosevelt. He offers her food as like a peace sort of offering, and she eats it and throws up. And then the last chapter from her perspective that I read was her like going through these different phases of, I think she's about to be like put into some sort of asylum or lab. It's kind of confusing or unclear thus far. And then the last chapter I read from James' perspective was him having like a conversation with Juliet and Kenji and Warner, and the whole plan is just to sort of like figure out what the heck is going on with Roosevelt and the chip and everything. There's still a lot of setup. Like we haven't gotten a ton of answers yet, but I'm assuming that will come in the next like 150 pages or so. Also, revelation, Juliet is pregnant. Don't know how I feel about that. I think I kind of suspected it because there was a snippet that Tahereh released on her Instagram, and a lot of the comments were like, oh my god, is Juliet pregnant? And I was like, she's definitely gonna be pregnant. So, I mean, it has been 10 years. They're like 30 years old, so it makes sense, I guess. I don't know. It kind of just feels like fan service to me, but it's also like, it doesn't bother me that much. Also, like, Adam and Alia are married and have 2 children, and Kenji and Nazira broke up because Nazira decided to move back to West Asia to, like, work on the rehabilitation of the world, basically. So, yeah, that's some character stuff. And then at the end of the chapter, it was like Juliet screamed or something because she's very, very pregnant. Like, she is about to give birth soon. So, feels a little bit of A Court of Silver Flames vibes, but I don't think it's going to be as intense as that, let's hope. So it's fun to see the new characters again, and I like that we're back with them because the stuff on Ark Island was like interesting, but I think this is now things are going to start to come together and be a little bit more enjoyable. And I definitely want to get to know Roosevelt a little bit better. Her character is interesting. I like her sort of inner conflict with protecting her sister and everything. And I, of course, like James as well, and I like reading the scenes about him interacting with the other characters from the original series. So yeah, we'll see how things develop. Their romance is a little bit fast-paced, so that and then the like no transition scenes are like my 2 biggest complaints, so we'll see if that improves. I don't think the transition scene thing will improve, so that's probably gonna knock at least 1 star off of the book for me. So yeah, a little bit disappointing, but I do think that the plot is interesting, and I, of course, became super interested as soon as the original characters showed up. So I'm definitely reading the book very quickly, and I actually was like, okay, I'm going to put it down now and film an update. So I want to eat lunch right now because it is like almost noon, as I said. And yeah, I will definitely continue reading after that and see if we get some more answers to a lot of the questions that have been posed thus far. I know my hair has been a travesty this entire video, but it's just not cooperating. I'm also too lazy to try to combat that, so we're just gonna have to deal. It is quite a bit later, it's after 4, but I am now on page 299 of Watch Me, and I'm definitely enjoying it. Like, those last 100 pages were, like, super engaging, and I read them really quickly, and I'm just into the book now, for sure. And so I only have about 50 pages left, which I feel like there is a lot more that needs to happen than there is room for it, if that makes sense. Like, I don't feel like 50 pages is enough to wrap up this story, and obviously, like, it's the first book in a series, but I still feel like there needs to be resolution to this installment specifically. So we'll see what happens, but there has been a lot of interesting stuff happening. There's been some development on both of the main characters. We got a lot more scenes with the original gang from the Shatter Me series, which I loved. We found out that Juliet has been having a lot of complications throughout her pregnancy. She's currently 8 months along, so she's at the tail end of it, but there's just been a lot of stuff happening because they didn't even think it was possible for her to get pregnant due to all of the experiments that her parents did on her from a very young age. So this is kind of like a miracle that she was pregnant in the first place. So yeah, hopefully everything ends up, you know, good with Julia. I wouldn't want anything to happen with her. And something that I really appreciate about this book is that all the characters from the original trilogy or series do feel like themselves. So I think it, like, yes, it is a little bit fan servicey, but I am a fan, so I'm being serviced, so I'm not that mad about it. But Juliet still feels like Juliet. Warner still feels like Warner. They still have the same vibes that they've always had, and I feel like that was kind of missing, especially in Believe Me. Like, that just felt like written by a different author, but this is returning to how the characters have always been in the original series and how they've lived in my mind since then. So I'm loving that aspect of the book. And plot-wise, it's starting to become a lot more engaging. We're learning a little bit more about Rosabelle, like her life, her parents, that whole situation. Her mother did kill herself. I think that is mentioned in the first chapter, but actually I should reveal that I did not reread the first, like, 3 chapters of this book because I had read them when they were first released, like, back in November, so I just kind of jumped in to chapter 4, so I think that was mentioned in the beginning, if my memory is serving me correctly, but I don't fully recall. But yeah, her mother did kill herself, so that is obviously a huge that was a huge turning point in Rosabelle's life. And so we're learning more about that and Ark Island and the technology that the reestablishment has been developing, especially with Klaus and the Nexus and everything. There's definitely a lot of unanswered questions still, but I'm excited to see how those, or how all of that pans out. And then there's like this random new character named Leon. He's really annoying, but we did get to see Winston and Ian, and apparently Brendan is, like, off traveling the world, and I think I mentioned that Nazira is in West Asia at the moment. So, yeah, there's just, like, a lot of fun character moments with the OGs, but I do still think that there could be way more transition scenes. Like, this book could easily be 450, 500 pages if there were just more scenes connecting all of the different chapters, so that will probably be my biggest complaint by the end of the book, but I think I'm honestly going to just sit down and finish it right now because I only have, as I said, like 50 pages left, and I would really like to see how everything wraps up. So I'm probably going to go do that, and then I will most likely update in the morning with my final thoughts on the book because I just don't feel like continuing with the vlog when it's going to be, like, really dark soon. Also, it's just been such a gloomy day that it's already pretty dark, and I just want to finish the book. Also, I want to, like, synthesize the story a little bit more before I give my final thoughts. So I'll probably check back in tomorrow morning. Not that that matters to you guys because you're seeing it literally immediately after this clip, but yeah, definitely enjoying the story a lot. And I think it's probably going to get like 4 stars, but we'll see if the ending can satisfy. Okay, so it is the next day, and I'm here to wrap up my thoughts on Watch Me by Tahereh Mafi. I read the last 50 pages like right after I finished that clip, and I kind of spent then to now just sort of thinking about the book, and I think I've landed on a 4-star rating. So not the worst book in the Shatter Me series and not the best book in the Shatter Me series. I would say this kind of fits in with the first Shatter Me book, kind of like in between probably Shatter Me and Defy Me. I think that is where this book would fall, not including the novellas. But I did overall really enjoy the book. The last 50 pages definitely had some great revelations. I do think, though, that this book, it felt like it left off in the middle of a story, which is sort of a trend with Tahereh Mafi books these days. Like, all of the books in the Woven Kingdom series, I've rated 5 stars because I love them so much, but they do also feel a little bit like they're broken up, like weirdly. They all do kind of stand alone, they all do have their own story, but it definitely feels like there's not a ton happening in each book. And I think that is going to be the situation with this series as well. I believe it's supposed to be 3 books, but it will probably be more, knowing Tahereh Mafi. Where we left off, I think there was like the whole situation with Rosabelle and Leon, and then we find out that Leon works for Klaus, or Klaus has like taken over his body. The whole stuff with Klaus is a little bit confusing still, but I'm sure there will be more answers in future installments. But it seems like he has been taken over by that artificial intelligence, and there's this whole thing where like Leon's wife was killed. I'm definitely gonna reread this book probably sometime soon, and I think I will understand things a little bit more. It's just not super well explained because a lot of the focus of this book is on like the momentum of the story, so we don't really take a lot of time to slow down, which kind of goes into my biggest complaint about the book, which is the no transition scenes, which was what forced my rating down. And basically they find Rosabelle, and there's like a whole situation where she like wakes up in the morgue, but she's not actually dead, and then she is just going to be imprisoned, and she has this whole confrontation with James. And the ending, again, was super fast-paced, which I liked, but I do wish there had been a little bit more time to just see inside the characters' heads when they're not in these super high-octane moments. I think that would have helped just throughout the book sort of develop the characters a little bit more, and also help the reader understand the complexities of this story, because there are a lot, and they're sort of not delved into with great detail. So I think things will become more clear when I reread the book, knowing the entire story, and also when the next installments are released. So overall, I did give this a 4 out of 5 stars because it was really entertaining, and I know I did do a lot of complaining in this video just about the no transition scenes, and just now I was like complaining about how the information is a little bit unclear still. But I was thoroughly entertained the entire time, and I was super engrossed, and I read the book. I read the majority of this book yesterday, like the last 250 pages, so it was definitely a quick read, very compulsively readable. So I do have to give it credit for that, and also I just love being in this world. I do really love the majority of the characters, so even though the ending felt a little bit rushed and there were no transition scenes and it felt like the story ended in the middle, I am confident that the series as a whole will be really good, and I think book 2 will have some revelations and will hopefully explain some things that are still a bit mysterious in this opening book. I really want to know what's going on with Juliet. We found out that Nazira has come to North America to be there for the birth of the child, so hopefully that will happen in the second book, and it will be dragged out for like an eternity. And yeah, I just want to make sure that Juliet is safe and everything, and I guess the next book will be like Rosabelle in prison and James sort of being like, I guess it's sort of just going to be like the opposite, where James was in prison and Rosabelle was like set to kill him. I think it's going to be flipped in the sequel, so that will be really interesting. Have to wait a year for that, but it's okay. There will be the 4th book in the Woven Kingdom series, Every Spiral of Fate, so we have that to look forward to. I'll definitely be doing a reading vlog for that as well, and reading vlogs for all the other books in this series. But yeah, 4 out of 5 stars, 3.75 I guess, but rounded up to a 4. And yeah, definitely very solid, a good installment or like a good new entry into the Shatter Me series. And I definitely don't understand like these super negative reviews that I saw. Like I saw a lot, I mean, the book overall has a pretty high average rating on Goodreads so far, but I saw a lot of like 2 and 1 star reviews from people who love the Shatter Me series, so I might read some of those, but I do think the majority of people are enjoying it, and I did like it as a whole, so that is definitely good, and I am looking forward to the rest of the series. Also, I do have to say, like, this book is so beautiful. It's not really coming out well on camera, but there's so many little details. This is like the exclusive edition, but even the regular edition is really pretty, so they definitely did a great job with this and the holographic foiling, so kudos to them. But that is it for my Watch Me reading vlog. I would love to know your thoughts on the book, if you enjoyed it, how you think it compares to the other books in the Tahereh Mafi universe, and also if you agree on any of my thoughts on the book. But that is it. I hope you all enjoyed. All of my social media links are in the description box below, and I'll see you soon for a new video. Bye!